I recently just seen an interview with lead singer of Fleshwater on the Hard Lore podcast, which, by the way, shout out to them for that existence of a podcast and just talking about music. I watched all the way through because I just love listening to band interviews, listening to a band's story, where they came from, how they all met, and why they make music. Just some interesting details within a band you wouldn't normally think of or expect, until they actually talk about it. And a lot of people might be surprised by that because I have been a little bit vocal about how Fleshwater isn't really for me. So why would I be watching an interview about the band and with a band member in it? And my response is, just because a band doesn't really do anything for me doesn't mean I don't want to learn what they're about, where they came from, and all that. I was interested. I wanted to see who the members were, or there was only one member from there, and it was honestly a very good conversation, a very good history lesson for the band if you're interested in Fleshwater. So yeah, man, I don't really care if I don't like the band that much or if I don't like a sound. It's whatever. If there's an interview, I might listen to it, and this is an interview I listened to, and it was actually really, really fun to listen to. A lot of great stories on tour, an overall awesome time. With that being said, though, I thought it would be an interesting idea for a video to actually make an album review. And this album that I'm going to be talking about is Fleshwater's album, We're Not Here to Be Loved. And with this new video, I wanted to just see if my take on the band's music and if anything really changed at all with over the past 2 years since it released. The way I look at music is a little bit more positive now. I try to find the good things and see if I gravitate towards them, and I'm obviously going to be a little bit more critical with things I'm not really into, because it's not going to be a 10 out of 10 album. I'm not just going to be talking positively throughout the whole thing. I mean, there's albums where albums are really great and I would talk very positive, but with this one I don't find it very perfect, and that's fine. Not every album's perfect, obviously, and I'm not really going to use that score thing at the end with like out of 10 scored to give a judgment of an album, and that's okay if people do that. I want to try a little something different. At the end of the video, I'm going to be talking about how I gravitate towards it, what I feel like it is, and just my overall thoughts about the sound and everything within the band's album. So I say that so that there's a better explanation on why or what I think about the album at the end, instead of just giving it like a 3 and being like, okay, see you later. So statements will be made at the end of this recording. You can debate with me if you want. But before I dive in, please please subscribe. Let's talk about the music. Try to keep it alive. That's a bar. Thank you for watching. Let's go. Fleshwater is a side project of 2 band members from the band Vane. They used to be called Vane. I think they go by Vane FM now. Fleshwater was born in 2017, and I'm just giving you a little background lesson of the history, little baby history stuff to the band. And let's get straight into it. One of the main opinions that really stuck with me even after re-listening to the album is the overall riffs, musicianship, and overall chemistry with the band is the best part about the band and their music. There's a musicianship, instrumental unison within the band where it's like they're just a humongous riff creating monster, and that's their best ability. I feel like they come up with these late 90s new metal-esque riffs with a hint of modern shoegaze that we're seeing nowadays, and some people might think that's a little bit weird of a sound, but I feel like it's so fresh. Even if you do hear it a lot nowadays, I feel like this band was one of the first to utilize that sound and make it what it is today. There's a cool filter to the band that's a very more modern, which it is. It's a band that was born in 2017, but it has an old sound as well, and it meshes together perfectly. Yes, it's an explosion. Yes, it's like the fastest nuclear kill streak ever recorded. You can't really teach that type of stuff whenever you're trying to make music or have a band. You kind of have to have that togetherness and chemistry where it's like, oh my god, this band really overpowers a bunch of other bands, and that's something I truly admire about this band. And you know what I'm trying to say, they just have this humongous sound, dude. Humongous sound. But not everything can be positive, so let me talk about some stuff that drew me away from the sound a little bit. They do have multiple vocalists, which I don't mind. I like more singers, I like more harmonies and stuff like that. But to me, it feels like the band doesn't really have that much chemistry when it comes to uniting the vocals together. They have this thing where it's a little bit back and forth between each other. One person says something, another vocalist says another, and in theory it would sound good, but to me, I don't know if it's just like the voices or something, but it just doesn't sound like, to me, it didn't sound that buttery smooth. But the melodies that they do create, I see the vision with, individually, these singers have this creation of sound where it's like they create catchy melodies, but then once they like meet each other, it doesn't really do it for me. I don't know what it is. It's so weird. I'm not saying that this band is an instrumental based band, a riff only band. You only want to hear their instruments. No, this band does have good singing. This band does have catchy melodies. I simply wanted to get that out the way so you didn't interpret that this band is just instruments. And I will say there wasn't a lot or a ton of variety on the album. And what I mean by that is that if you played this album continuously and didn't skip a song, I felt like it was one big song up until the second to last song, Backstairs Breathing. That song did have a slower approach to it where it kind of like caught me off guard, but it didn't sound out of place to me. It was something different and it caught my attention and I liked the song overall. And I'm also not saying that every song on an album has to be different for it to be good. That's just not true at all. But there were some vocal inflections or melodies where I was like, that sounds like the previous song. It was like they had a melody that they didn't really want to let go. They just kind of let it linger on to the next song. And the album only has 9 songs, which I don't mind. I know there's a lot of discourse nowadays where it's like people want longer albums or a decent amount of albums. This 9-song album was perfect, I felt like. And to be truly true with you, I feel like I never really pay attention to a length of an album unless it's like I'm listening to it and then it feels like it's taking forever. That's where I'm like, oh dang, this album is probably a little bit too long. There's a lot of phenomenal ability within this band that I never really gave a shot back then, and let me tell you why. My perspective back then was like, if I didn't like your stuff, then I probably wouldn't listen to it and just rated it horribly in my mind. And I wouldn't really elaborate. I would just be like, it is what it is. I'm right, you're wrong. This was also at a time where Fleshwater was all over TikTok, and they're still a little bit over TikTok, but at the time I was very opposed to any band being shoved in my face from a TikTok sound. And I feel like that was probably because of a popularity aspect, a little bit of jealousy. No, not a little bit. I was jealous, and I didn't think that bands that were blowing up on TikTok had that live aspect where a band had to have for it to be a good band. I've obviously turned around on a lot of those opinions, if not all of them. I wouldn't describe Fleshwater as a TikTok band. I hate that term. I made a video on it. I just look at these bands as bands because bands on TikTok don't usually force themselves on you to listen to their music and stuff like that. And if they do, I kind of look at it like they're just promoting their band. They're using TikTok as a tool, and I understand that. TikTok is a major aspect into a band being popular nowadays, and if someone's wanting to use that recipe, use it, man. I feel like I would do that if I was in a band right now. But anyways, Fleshwater uses their melody making ability to a high degree. They create this energetic, emotional, and fun sound where it's like, yeah, man, I totally understand someone trying to go listen to that music. I understand people raving about a band like this. If there's a band out there that can get you pumped up, if there's a band that can get you thinking, it's probably Fleshwater. They have catchy hooks. I really like their production sound overall. They have this edge to it, and it's not like the cleanest sound ever, but it's still very, very punchy. Not really a dull sound, so if someone actually said that, I would really disagree with that take. So here's my ending wrap up. Overall thoughts about the Fleshwater album. We Are Not Here to Be Loved. This album has great moments. It also has moments where it feels like stuff is being a little bit recycled. Direction is clear as day. I appreciate the energy and the truth behind the lyrics that they're really releasing all the time. Even though there's 9 songs, there are songs where it feels a little bit repetitive or maybe like one big song. Doesn't matter though, it's catchy. Stories are being told. And down the line, I feel like Fleshwater can make a way better album in my ears and eyes and mind. They have the right abilities and they have the right tools to do so. I wouldn't be shocked if I was floored by their next album. And even if it doesn't grab my attention, I'm sure it'll grab a lot of people, and I mean tons of people, and I mean millions of people's attention, and they'll grab them by the face and they'll melt their faces off. So that's really the end of this album review. Not really giving it out of a 10 score, so you know, something different. Try to just explain my thoughts a little bit at the end, and really I want to know what you guys think about this album. What does it mean to you? Do you guys really appreciate it? Do you hate it? And if you guys want to listen to Fleshwater, I'll leave a link down below, and I'll leave a link to their Instagram. They're also going on tour right now, and I feel like tickets went on sale, so this might be a little bit late, but if you want to check them out and if there's tickets near you, I'll leave a picture of what their tour dates are, and you can go find that on their Instagram. Yeah, I think some shows are sold out, but you know what? It's the thought that counts. Sorry if I'm a little bit late. So yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Wrap up, like, and subscribe. Keep the music alive. Thank you for rocking. Talk about the music. I actually got a couple tattoos if you guys want to see. Ow.